calls for our gracious Majesty the Queen to abdicate. But once again, has she proved all of her naysayers wrong? Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here in the heart of London. Thank you for joining me today. Hope you're keeping well, hope you're all fine and dandy as I am. Well, at least on camera. I don't know about you, sometimes you just want to sit down with a lovely cup of tea, don't you, and a jam ring. Do you know what I'm saying? But as ever, we have a busy royal beat for you today. And of course, it all focuses on my favourite member of the British monarchy, none other than Her Glorious Majesty the Queen. Now, it's interesting to note, isn't it, because there's been lots of calls recently for the abdication of Her Majesty the Queen. In fact, one rather cruel journalist on national television on a breakfast show called GMB basically said she should retire, let someone else take over. I mean, he's a well-known Republican, but the bottom line is, have a heart. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a lady who's given so much of her life, her time, service and duty. And at 95 years old, simply because she has a few days off, is it really that needy to be so cruel and unkind? But seemingly that is the sort of groundswell of some of these people over here in the United Kingdom. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because once again, just when you figure that Her Majesty the Queen couldn't look any better, or in fact appear more on the ball, then up she pops in the Windsor Oak Room to meet and greet with one of her subjects. It was, of course, to meet Sir Nick Carter, her Chief of Defence Staff. And what I loved about this particular footage, as you can see, there's a corgi in the background, lots of family pictures. Don't spot Harry and Meghan though, if you get the drift. And of course, the Queen looks, as is said here in the media, she was able to stand unaided. I mean, goodness, could you be any crueler? I think the fact that she can stand up at all is a miracle at 95 years old. I can't do that already. It takes me a long time. But seriously, this is the negativity that seemingly is against Her Majesty the Queen all the time. I'm sure she's used to it because, she's been on the throne now for 70 years. Now, on a more serious note, the reason why we're seeing this particular footage is this. As I said, there was lots of calls to be negative against the monarchy and Her Majesty the Queen. And by putting out this particular bit of film, it shows without a doubt, of course, that she's very much up, able and willing and ready to receive visitors and carry on as the ruling monarch. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? Because there were lots of people saying last week, would Camilla and Charles continue with that royal tour? But of course, as we told you first here on the show, that he was told by Her Majesty, it all goes ahead as planned, nothing changes, it all remains the same. It's such a relief, as I say, for so many people to see Her Majesty up and about. But of course, there are calls to say, when will she be next out in public? Well, let's not forget, we also have a rising case here of COVID-19, as I'm sure we do around the world, but it's also winter, and at that particular age you have to be careful where and when you go out. You can't risk catching any more infections. Now, what's interesting also is the fact that Her Majesty the Queen isn't the easiest of monarchs to deal with, and I say that in the kindest way. She apparently is very forthright, wants to get on with things and simply move forward, and as she said before, age is just a number. Let's not forget, very recently she turned down that very special award, Oldie of the Year, because she said, well, give it to someone more deserving. What she truly meant was she simply doesn't feel her age. And let's face it, do any of us really think like that? As I say, it's lovely to see the monarch up and about, and I just wanted to share this particular story with you to allay any fears, because as I say, if you read some of the newspapers and of course the online reports, they very much want to write her off. Once again, our glorious Majesty the Queen has proved them all wrong. Neil Sean in the heart of London.